Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much, much more. I'm your host, Chris, and today we have a DC update for you with Aquaman 2, where we have coming from a very reliable insider, Casey Walsh. Amber Heard scenes as Mera are set to be deleted, removed, taken out of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, now following the second trial, which lasted 6 weeks, as a defamation case where Amber Heard and Johnny Depp were suing each other. So we can talk about this and other DC news, guys. There's a lot of stuff going on with DC right now. A lot of it's not great news, but it's definitely interesting and good to stay up to date with. So we're going to be talking about Aquaman and how Mera is probably not going to be in the movie. We're going to be talking about something that an anonymous DC insider said about Henry Cavill's Superman and how he has to return. And then lastly, we're going to talk about some of the first responses for the screener for the Flash movie, which does have another troubled actor who keeps getting in trouble, Ezra Miller. We're going to talk all about that and more in today's video, but if you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our other major movie and television news updates. We're covering it all here daily. You can also check me out on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram at Chris M. Rosser, Twitter at The Culture Chris. Links to both of these are in the description down below. So first off, I want to start off with this Amber Heard news because it is very interesting, and we're seeing Warner Brothers, standing up for what's right again, but they didn't do that the first time around. They weren't right with Johnny Depp. They kept Amber Heard. It's a whole huge debacle, but we don't really need to get into that side of it as much as I'd like to just talk about the news and what that means for the franchise, which is already having enough issues and problems to deal with that, quite frankly, the Amber Heard problem is one of the smaller problems that they're dealing with. But according to Casey Walsh, after a meeting now that has happened with some of the higher ups at Warner Brothers, they have decided to remove any of the scenes that Mera's in. They don't have time to necessarily reshoot or replace her, so they're just going to completely remove her. Now, we've already heard, and Amber Heard herself has admitted, that her role has been significantly cut since the trial kind of started taking place, and I think the majority of people could see, based off of what we were watching, that Amber Heard was definitely, at the very least, also in the wrong as well. And as it turns out, after the $15 million awarded to Johnny Depp and $2 million awarded to her following the defamation trial, where each were suing each other, Johnny Depp suing Amber Heard for $50 million and Amber Heard suing Johnny Depp for $100 million, it's become very evident that they were both up to no good. But it seems like there was a lot more being hidden and not told, and a lot more lies coming from Amber Heard's side, as you see the biggest difference coming in the damages awarded to each Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It's also important to note that the jury did find Amber Heard guilty of all of the claims that Johnny Depp brought, including sexual abuse, violence, mental torment, all of the different things that he said, and most importantly for Johnny Depp, the defamation and the op-ed that she wrote. He was also found guilty of defamation, but Johnny Depp was not found guilty of sexual assault, domestic abuse, or anything that was originally the reason he got kicked out of his Warner Brother project, his Disney projects, and many of his other sponsors and studios that released him and dropped him from their casting, from their role, and from their sponsorship. With that being said, Warner Brothers has now found themselves in a situation where they fired somebody and didn't fire somebody else, and it turns out the people they fired were incorrect. If their reasons were, hey, we're not going to support anybody that participates in domestic abuse, look how moral and upstanding we are as a company, well, they kept Amber Heard on for quite some time. And it turns out, according to the legal case that just took place, she was actually the aggressor and the one committing the domestic abuse and harming and lying and causing all of these problems that this couple specifically had. So Warner Brothers has to make amends. It seems like if you're going to fire somebody for committing domestic abuse, and then we find out in an appeals court in a defamation case that was actually Amber Heard who was doing all of the violence and all of the abuse, well, I guess you have to fire her as well. And it sounds like that's what Warner Brothers are going to be doing. Now, the big question is, does this affect the movie? Will Aquaman 2 have any plot holes or any issues at all? Well, the answer is yes. There's no way you can take care of a character who had just as much time as Aquaman in the first movie that came out in 2018, and now you've cut down her scenes. She's still in it. You can kind of fade her out, and now you're completely removing her. I'm sure there are a ton of moments and scenes where this character was important and now is gone. So there will be some holes, there will be some kind of choppiness, I think, to the film, especially since they're just cutting it up and they're not reshooting as of right now, unless they decide to delay the film and then reshoot and put in a different Mera or completely change the story where she would have been important, now she's not, opposed to just cutting her out. As of right now, however, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is set to open on March 17th, 2023, and apparently Amber Heard will not be a part. And although Amber Heard has been a small problem child for DC to deal with over these last few years, there has been one who outshines them all, Ezra Miller, the Flash, who surprisingly is also at the moment the center of the DC universe with his upcoming movie The Flash, supposedly meant to open up the DC multiverse, allowing for them to leave the failed DCEU and combine with other heroes and create the DC universe. Now this would be their best and only opportunity in my mind to really stretch out and continue any type of continuous universe, much like we've seen in the MCU, where one movie builds off the last to create and combine into some really awesome super connected events. And we could see that with the Justice League and how it was rushed and all of these issues and problem here, problem there, disconnect there, this actor's quit, lots of different problems. But at the moment, The Flash is the center of that DC universe, and we had our first test screening. And coming from Variety, this is what they said about the Flash movie, stating that The Flash has been received extraordinarily well in early test screenings. Now, Ezra Miller will not be recast, as it would require shooting the entire film over. That's what Variety has had to say, so Ezra Miller isn't going anywhere because he is the center of the film, whereas in Aquaman, Mira is not the title character. In the Flash movie, The Flash is kind of what it's all about. But it's not only that, he is the center of the DC universe at the moment. He is opening up the DC multiverse, and this movie, before all of the Ezra Miller problems that we were running into, where he's threatening people and causing a scene and making problems, his character was set to be the most important DC character in the current days for quite some time. As I mentioned, the whole multiverse deal, including new characters, bringing new characters, connecting old and new, and opening up what Jim Lee described in the first ever DC fandom as the multiverse, where you could take a pencil and shove it through pieces of paper, and all of these universes connect, and it goes infinitely, and anybody could be anybody in any way, shape, or form. And that is how Jim Lee's explained it as we started preparing for this at the very first DC fandom when they announced it all. So in short, Mira out, The Flash isn't out, and not only is it not out, but the movie apparently is really, really good. So they're going to have to sidestep a little bit here as they look around all of Ezra Miller's problems, and they're going to probably keep him on board as he is a very important and integral character to the current plan for the DC universe. Now following that, we have an insider talking about Henry Cavill and Superman as a character, and they said something along the lines of, anonymously, if they want to continue the DC universe, if they want to continue a cohesive world, they need to bring Superman back. And if they want it to make any sense, they need to bring Henry Cavill back. They cannot have a DC universe without Henry Cavill. And I don't know that I disagree, because what are you going to do? Take the Flash into a different universe and he's just going to join somebody else's Justice League? It's a possibility, but is it weak writing? Absolutely. And the already troubled DCEU, which is going to be turning into the DC universe, needs more. If it were me, personally, I think I would just want to start over. I would want to end the entire DC universe. I wouldn't want to try to grasp onto the straws that we already have and bring it over. Yes, Aquaman was a massive hit. Yes, people seem to like The Flash, although a lot of people don't like Ezra Miller anymore, or really ever. A lot of people haven't been massive fans of him as the character. And then of course Wonder Woman, people love Gal Gadot playing this character, bringing her to life, and although the second movie wasn't necessarily loved, the character has always been strong, and Wonder Woman is a good inclusion. But then you look at everything else going on and it's just rough, it's difficult, it's not clean, it doesn't make sense. They had to fire the Cyborg, they had to fire everybody, everybody's out. Ben Affleck doesn't want to be Batman anymore, Henry Cavill can't be Superman anymore. And those are like your big characters for DC. Superman and Batman are the well-known and loved DC characters. You can't really move on without them having had a good story that everybody is happy with. Much like for the MCU right now, Iron Man and Captain America are gone, or they've passed on their mantles, or will be passing on their mantles, but their story was complete. It started from day one and went all the way to the end. They traded their roles, they changed their hearts. They're taking that away from DC without having that story been completely created. So I do agree with what's being said here about Henry Cavill, how he needs to return to be the center of the Justice League, the center of the universe. It's not the Flash, although many people love the Flash, he's not the character for that role. Although if you were asking me, I would start over. I would take Shazam out of that universe, Black Adam, include him, and then recast everybody. You can have Shazam and his friends, you can take Black Adam and do his movie, and then from there, new Flash, new Aquaman, new everybody. As much as I like some of those roles, the universe didn't work out. We need to start again. It won't happen, but if I had my way, it would happen. Thank you guys so much for watching till the very end of the video. Obviously, there's a lot going on in DC, and the majority of these updates were problems and things that should be happening and aren't. But let me know what you think. Are you excited for any upcoming DC movies? With all things being considered, I am very excited for the Flash film, and I'm curious to see how well it actually does transition the DC universe. And it sounds like, based off of some of the early reactions to the early test screenings, it's going to be a pretty decent film. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, thank you to everybody who watched to the very end of the video. If you found it helpful, useful, or interesting, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell. And I'll catch all of you guys on the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.